What's up, guys? I'm here at the Cleveland Metro Parks in Rocky River. It is absolutely beautiful today. However, it is cold and windy, and if you don't know Cleveland, the weather's very unpredictable here this time of year. So it just is what it is. But I would like to talk to you about the astrological origins of the days of the week. So all calendars are astrological. They all are influenced by the celestial movements. Any calendar. You can take the Sothis calendar of Egypt, and that it goes off of the rising and setting of Sirius, the great dog star. Let's see, the Maya had many calendars associated with Venus. If you go look at many of the temples in Mexico and Guatemala, there's many temples dedicated to the celestial movement of Venus. And as we know, the Mayan calendar is very complex and covers probably many things that we're not even aware of. But even our own calendar, our Gregorian calendar in the West is based on the solar movement. It's very much based on the sun. And the sun, of course, is the yang energy, the masculine energy, the outward energy. But we have this 365-day calendar with some odd years. Every 4 and every 100 years we get an extra day. But when you break that down into the 12 months, month actually comes from the word month. So it's all about the lunar movements. And if you take the lunar cycle, which is 28 days about, and you divide 365 by 28, you get almost exactly the number 13. So we have 13 lunar cycles in a solar year. Why we've deviated so far from 13 months, I don't know. Probably some people would blame the patriarchy, and that may be why we're not exactly in tune with that. But I don't know. I think if we had 13 equal months, I would think that the days would continue to fall on, like, every 5th would be a Thursday or something like that, and that might change things in a weird way. But yeah, the Pleiades have their own calendar. It's referenced in many ancient Chinese texts, in the Bible, in the Iliad, and what it refers to is the sailing season. So when the Pleiades would rise, it's like, okay, it's safe to sail the seas. Now, why do we have 7 days of the week? Well, for one reason, 28, again, going with the lunar cycle, divides evenly into 4. We get 7. And the lunar cycle breaks down very obviously, very conveniently, visibly, where we have the first quarter, and then going up from the new moon to the first quarter, and then from the first quarter to the full moon, and then from the full moon to the third quarter, and then from the third quarter back down to the new moon. So we have 4. And the word week actually is derived from the Norse word wikon, W-I-K-O-N, and it means the turning and the succession. And you may or may not believe this, but many astrologers view everything as a cycle, everything in a turning motion. So therefore, that makes sense. The weeks go by, they're turning. Just like the moon, we can see it. It's turning in the sky. So we have that. And then 7 conveniently translates into the 7 visible planets. And I say planets because the word planet comes from wanderer. So to the ancients, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, they look like stars, but these stars wander, they move. So these are the planets. And because the moon and the sun also move, we have the 7 wanderers, the 7 planets. And that is where we get the 7 days of the week. And many cultures had different names for the various archetypal gods, but what we've ended up with is obviously Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The sun is the most obvious in the English language. The sun, obviously, Sunday. It's the first day of the week. It's recognized by many as a holy day, and the sun is our sustainer, our life giver. So that makes a lot of sense. But many of the others are less obvious unless you look at them in other languages. So if you look at, let's go to Monday. I call it Moon Day. It's the moon's day. And then in Spanish, it's lunes, which is like luna, the moon. And in Latin, it's dies lunae. And so then we go over to Tuesday. And our English way of saying Tuesday comes from the Norse god Tiu. And maybe it's Germanic, and maybe I'm not exactly 1,000% on that, but Tiu was the god of war and the sky, similar to Mars. And then in Spanish, Tuesday is Martes, or in Latin, Dies Martis. So there you have, Tuesday is Mars Day. And then Wednesday in Latin is the most obvious. It's called Dies Mercurii. It's Mercury's day. But this one's kind of a stretch, but then well, not this one. In Spanish, it's miércoles, which sounds a lot like Mercury. But then our day, Wednesday, in English, that it sounds like kind of a stretch, but it's from Woden's day. It's named after the Norse god Woden. And then we have Thursday. Most obviously, if we're going with the Norse names, it's Thor's day. And Thor is the god of thunder and lightning, similar to Zeus, who is Jupiter. So in Spanish, it's Jueves, which sounds a little bit like Jupiter. And then in Latin, it's Dies Iovis, which is the way it's spelled. It has an I, and the I and the J kind of sound the same when you say it correctly, which I am not trained to do. And then Friday, Friday. In Spanish, it's Viernes, which sounds a lot like Venus. In Latin, it's Dies Veneris, which Venus is a root word also for venereal disease, because, Venus is the goddess of love. And, back in the day, if you weren't too careful, that was very, very prominent. And then Friday, our English name comes from the Norse goddess Freya, which of course also shares the same rulership as Venus over beauty and love and sex. And then obviously Saturn rules Saturday, and that one stayed the same in Latin, Dies Saturni, and in Spanish it's Sábado, which doesn't sound as much like Saturn as the English one. But yes, Saturn is the god of hard work and discipline, and it can also be a holy day, but in many religions, you have to be disciplined to cultivate your spiritual self. But for many people, it's a day of getting stuff done so that they can relax on Sunday and shine like the sun. So there you have it. That's your astrological days of the week, the weekon, the turning, the succession, as a part of the month, as a part of the solar year. Namaste, Sat Nam, and Aloha.